good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are. Welcome to It's All About the Grey podcast. I've got a good friend of mine, colleague, and recently experiencing some financial broking matters, Hanif, which we'll dive into today. But I've got Hanif Ibrahim, founder and CEO of the finance agency. Hanif, welcome.
Thanks, Paz. Thanks for having me on.
I can't wait to have this chat, mate. We've been speaking about this for a while, about getting on the potty, sharing some insights into what we experience. Obviously, we've been working with each other for a number of years now, and a personal experience we had recently, which look, it was all about learning, and I've learnt a lot. But
I noticed you didn't say it was fun.
Yeah.
Just
Look, I wouldn't necessarily say it was my definition of fun, but it was a journey. We did come out the other side, and we will get into it today because I feel like it's an experience that we should be sharing with others, particularly given the time period we're about to go through, both in Australia and business and at a global scale.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of change, and with change comes experiences, and we can get into that finance experience we had. But before we get into that, Hanif, why don't you share with us who you are, the journey you've been on, because you've been on a fantastic journey and you provide valuable insight every time that we have a chat, and you're a fantastic sounding board. So maybe let's get into who you are and what you've built.
God, you're very kind. Wow. You might have to help me with this so I don't do the big 5,000 hour ramble.
Yeah.
What I've discovered about myself is I just like to win.
Yeah.
And I want the people around me to win. Like, that's even more important to me than winning myself. And I take it personally. I never used to think I took it personally, but I actually do.
Yeah, good.
And I think it is good.
Yeah.
The outcome is good because the drive and energy I put into things comes from, I just want to win. So it seems really fundamental and very raw. I think that's all it is.
But having that mindset rubs off on people, doesn't it?
Well, I actually don't know.
Yeah, no, from experience, it does. Because if you want to win, I want to win. Because I want to win with you, or we can win together. And that has definitely rubbed off on the experience that we've had together.
I think that bit for me is fun, and it's not always easy. And the challenges are there, and you're right, we learn a lot from it because you don't give up. You see a barrier or a boundary, and I don't think it's about being ridiculous to say, let's push the boundaries. Well, of course, you'll push the boundaries to a certain degree. I tend to liken it to saying, let's push the boundaries and get this thing done if it's commercially viable. If it's not, don't be a dick. Just call it. just say, look.
Accept it for what it is.
Paz, we can get anything done really if we put our minds to it. However, for the sake of what are we doing this?
Yeah.
Are we better off not doing it? Are we better off putting our time and energy and money into something else and just call it for what it is? Sometimes I feel like those conversations don't happen often enough. And sometimes to my own detriment, I do have them. To say, here's my view, it's just an opinion.
Yep.
But this is what the numbers are telling me.
Yeah. Well, I often say the juice isn't worth a squeeze.
I love it. I haven't even answered your question yet.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I went off on
don't be
I want
sorry.
to win tangent.
And this is why you're here on the podcast today, because I think you share some fantastic insight and some really powerful thoughts at the right time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Somebody asked me the other day, where does all that come from? And it forced me to think about it. And I grew up in Canberra. 10 kids in the family, so we didn't have much. And I'm really grateful for it. Because it wasn't that bad, really.
So 10 kids?
10 kids.
10 kids.
There
right.
wasn't anything. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. Weren't allowed to see friends. Weren't allowed to have friends over. For lots of reasons, we won't go into that.
Yep.
That's another body. unpack the psychology of the family. My God. That'll borderline on entertainment and a reality TV show. And yet in all of that, I don't look back and say, oh, life was bad. And I know a lot of my friends had it, I'll call it different, not better. Certainly way more privilege. What it's done for me, and I think the rest of my siblings are different and their experiences are definitely different, is it's made me independent.
Good. Yeah, okay.
And from the age of 7, so I remember the specific moment, I don't know why it stuck in my head. There was a cupboard in the corner of the house where I had one shelf, and that's where my toys were. Not many. And I was standing in front of that cupboard looking out the window, and the thought came to my mind, if I don't do something for myself, no one's going to do it for me. And I think that changed my life.
It's a powerful statement for a 7-year-old.
Yeah, intense, isn't it?
Very.
And I only remembered that in my late 30s.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I start to unpack, how am I the way I am? Part of it, I think, is genetic. So you're born with a certain set of characteristics and traits. Part of it, I think, is fostered by your environment. So certain characteristics will peak, others will be lower. And then I think you go from there. So for me, it's the independence thing. I better do it for myself because it's just me. Even though I'm surrounded by so many other people, it's just me. And there's some not so good sides to that, by the way. It's not all, oh yeah, that was great. Well, it actually wasn't great.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-learning.
Yeah, and it only came out when I was much, much older.
Right.
And on reflection or hitting hard times. And but I take the good out of it. And I would say to you, the fearlessness that's been described by others, not by me, comes from the background of having nothing and feeling like having nothing and everything's relative wasn't that bad. So what's the worst that can happen? What, that?
Correct. Or having everything and having that taken from you.
Yeah, you know, that's fear, right?
Yeah. That's when you go, right.
So my homeschool advantage is I didn't have privilege. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's the flip side of that.
Yes.
You know, which we can talk about later. But
yeah.
I think the journey started when I was 7.
Right. So it starts at 7 and then you progress into...
How about we fast forward a bit?
Good
Otherwise
idea.
you'll run out of time.
Good idea.
We're meant to be a potty about business.
Yeah.
I had a keen interest in, for some reason, love the ocean, love coral reefs in particular. I think it's the vibrancy, the colour, the complexity. And I had a fascination with coral and coral propagation and genetics.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I love science. I'm a science head. So when I was in my early 20s, I wanted a lab. I want to do some experiments. And of course, no one's going to pay you for it.
No.
It's a hellishly expensive thing to do. But I still want to do it. I was pretty stubborn and go, if I want to do something, I'll just go do it.
Yeah,
I'll find a way.
Cool.
So I thought, I need to earn some money, and I didn't have any. So this is another period of time in my life when I had nothing.
Right.
I started an aquarium company. I go, well, I can design them, I can make them, I can sell them, I can maintain them. Let's do that, and then I can build this lab. Okay, I've got $20 and a van.
$20 in a van.
That's it. That's all I had.
Right.
So the business was started on the smell of an oily rag, and I managed to get 2 jobs. And my decision at the time was, in terms of scheduling, is I'll do this first job over here because I'll get enough money to put fuel in the van so I can go and do this job.
Amazing.
That was literally, I remember the
Amazing.
decision because I'm going, I can't do 2 jobs because I've only got that much fuel
Fuel
left
in
in
the
the van.
van.
I ain't got
Yeah.
any fuel.
Yeah, well,
How
it's
am I
no
gonna do it?
different in business. I feel you've only got so much fuel on the tank, and you got to focus your areas, and that are going to get the best return.
So that's where it started.
Yeah,
but
right.
that thing grew as the biggest of its type in Australia. I can't remember, 8 vans on the road, a bunch of staff.
Cool.
We would build the most challenging, tiny little things like this to massive tanks that you put a snorkel on and a wetsuit and you swim in.
Yeah. Wow.
The learning that came from that, put the lab aside for a minute, that's another story.
Uh-huh.
I haven't got qualifications in this, but I know how to do it because we had to. Engineering, because you're talking about things that might weigh 50 tonnes.
Mm.
Glass panels that weigh 3 tonnes a panel.
Wow.
I can plastic weld. I can do plumbing. I can do electrical. I can do electronics. Because we had to.
Yeah,
and I loved it. And I'd spend countless hours in the factory at night pulling all these things together. And then I built the lab, of course. It was great fun.
Right.
Great fun. Fast forward, that was in Sydney.
Yes.
I moved to Perth and I couldn't do that business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another story for another time. And I thought, the experience of buying the house in Perth between my accountant, 2 banks and a broker. I'm going, why was that so harrowing and hard? Seriously. I'm just an aquarium guy.
Yeah.
But this is a transaction and the numbers look like this. And dudes, it's not that hard. It can't be that hard. Anyway,
Yeah. I hear ya.
that's why I got into finance. So I'm going,
hear
come
ya.
on, it's not that hard, really. And it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't, but it was.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
That was my whole impetus for going, let's get into finance. It's
Someone
not,
can do
I
this
love
better.
finance.
Yeah.
No.
Because you're not a broker. You didn't come through the banking world, which is the traditional, journey. Or
It's a very
trajectory.
common pathway.
Yeah, very common.
It's very
Where
common.
you went
pathway.
from labs to broking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was great. I had a good time. Built a company, sold it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fast part. Went into management consulting, learnt a lot, a truckload about different industries. And it was just sharing my experience and how we could do things. I was the CEO of an electrical and data company. I was CEO of a data center company. There's great stories and learning around those things. I was incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to do it. It's taught me a lot. I've got a biotech company and there's links back to the days in the lab. And then started the finance agency. And that was because one of my mates is a lawyer, great guy. And he said, well, selfishly, can you come back into finance? I need some stuff done. And I said, no, Matt. And I left his office, and a week later I came back and said, actually, because I was thinking about it and I was wondering, I wonder if I took the experiences of building all these businesses and my personal learning and added it to the finance piece, because now I can speak business.
Of course.
And I can speak bank.
Yes.
I wonder if that's useful. And I'd learnt enough. That's ego, there you go. I think I've learnt enough to know that the market will tell you whether they value it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I got Russ, my marketing guy, said, Russ, this is what I want to do. Let's go and test the market. And the market loved it. And I think that's what I enjoy about it, because if it was just do transactions, kill me now. But it's not.
It's more than that.
It's way more than that, because the conversations aren't just, oh, you need finance, let's do this, and here are your options. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've got a team who are way better at that than I am.
Mm-hmm.
They're patient, beautiful people, highly intelligent. They will get the job done. If you want people who get the job done, go talk to my team.
Yep. Which again I can vouch for after
Thank you.
our experience, which I will unpack very, very shortly. But so, Hanif, what keeps you driving? Because you are one of the most energetic people that I've surrounded myself with in recent times. You've gone on this journey from lab to management consulting to back into finance, and then what is it? What is it that gets you up in the morning and keeps you moving?
There are so many interesting things to me on this planet, and I can't do them all. I love music. I'm a musician, you know.
Bass guitar, saxophone.
It's just everything. There's so much fun to have.
What don't you do, Hanif?
And there's so many interesting people, and there's still so much to learn and to add value to. How can I help? And I think that just keeps me going. Oh, there's something new today. There's something interesting today. There's always something interesting.
So it's is it the learning that keeps you moving, or do you think it's more just the power of helping others achieve their goals?
I really do think it's the helping.
Yeah, okay.
I think if I think about it, I just love to help.
Yeah.
You know, and I get a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. It's a bit warm and fuzzy, but I think I just do love to help, and I really do. I don't like rat bags. But good people, I help good people. And I love working with good people. It brings me immense joy. It's just ridiculous.
It's good. It's good because it's with purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that's the best part. It's very rewarding because it's purpose-driven, and that obviously aligns with what you're trying to achieve. So talking about purpose-driven, and hopefully I fit in that category, we had an interesting experience, Hanif, over the last, it's probably been a couple of months. I think it started with some acquisitions that we were undertaking at a business or some practices here at SEA, and it was a really interesting experience, and I'd love to unpack it because it's fair to say it was frustrating at times. It's fair to say emotions did come into the equation, notwithstanding it shouldn't, but it did. And I feel like it's a common experience because I've now had some discussions with clients, prospects, friends, just people in the network, and they've said, oh, that exact experience I've actually been through, and I went through with this bank and this bank, and I don't think it's we're not going to disclose names and banks and things like that because that's not going to benefit anybody. But we went on a transaction journey. We were looking to acquire some practices. There was an existing facility in place, and settlement was delayed. It could have been 4 or 5 times, if not more. It was booked, it was delayed, it was this, it was that, it was this form. And it was the most excruciating experience that when I got to the end of the transaction to settle, I almost didn't want it anymore. That is genuinely the way I had felt. So given the journey that you've been on, and obviously helping people with purpose, how did you find the experience? Like, is this common, the experience that I experienced trying to buy a practice and the bank just literally making it the most difficult thing in planet Earth?
Not always.
Not always. Okay.
Not always, and there's some components of that were unusual and incredibly frustrating. I think a key thing here, and that's why I liken myself to a babel fish. You're probably too young for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Do you know what a babel fish is?
Wouldn't have a clue, mate.
All right, a babel fish it's a fish. You stick it in your ear.
Right.
Right, and it translates. You can speak Swahili and I can understand it.
Yeah, okay.
As a babel fish.
I think Google has one of those little things these days.
Yeah, probably.
Google earbud.
And they probably call it the babel fish.
The babel fish.
That's what a babel fish is.
Okay.
And it is actually a translation, because if you de-identify it and say, and we don't call it the bank. Let me put it to you this way. Okay. If there's a commercially viable transaction and you and I as business owners go, that works, we should smash that out of the ballpark. Absolutely. It's financeable. Great, tick the box, let's go do it. whether we like it or not, we're emotionally tied to that
Mm-hmm.
because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're doing it.
Mm.
So the emotion exists. So tick that box. The bank isn't the bank. It's not a person. It's an institution. And therein lies part of the problem.
Amen to that. It is an institution.
It's an institution. And I think we don't acknowledge enough in our thinking about a transaction of what that actually means. Can they finance it? Do they want to do the deal? Yes, they do. Do they want to lend the money? They actually want to lend the money.
Well, they're in the business of lending money.
Correct.
That's their job.
Right, but
Yeah.
you think about it, and we're all business people, so I think people in business can relate to this. When you're small and nimble, everything is possible because you can go down the hall and tell Jack, hey, Jack, what are you doing? No, go and talk to John because he needs this now. And
Yeah.
Jack will go and talk to John and it'll get done.
Sure.
If your company has 10,000 employees in 5 different states, you're not the CEO. Some other dude's the CEO and you've got a board running. You're just a shareholder now.
Mm.
And the alignment of that business is to create shareholder value.
Mm.
They say they want to serve the customer, and some part of the bank does. The sales guys, who are the bankers, they want to serve the customer. But at the top of that organisation, they want to serve the shareholder. So a couple of things happen. One is you're actually not all pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely not.
And because you want shareholder value, you're actually going to cut that business up differently.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to say, well, our bottom line's going to be healthier if we centralise this part of the operation here. And we can have a team over here doing this, and they can serve the whole country.
Mm.
And then if this team does this, and by the way, the government, this is now the ecosystem, has said we need to do these things, otherwise we're going to get these fines. And the board says we've got to do these things for cybersecurity and anti-money laundering, like it becomes complicated. So now we go back to this transaction we've got to do. You've got a banker who goes, yes, we can do it. I want to do the right thing. I'm here to help you. And they genuinely mean it.
Mm.
Most of them are actually good people. They have to deal with 5,000 other departments to get their transaction done. Then add the complication of what does the government want out of this
Mm-hmm.
in terms of compliance. Then add the complication, which we had, of another bank being involved with their 5,000 people and processes.
Mm.
It becomes very messy. It becomes worse. In an acquisition, you've got lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your lawyers. You've
And
got the seller's lawyers. Now you've got the bank's lawyers.
2 banks lawyers. There's 4 lawyers.
So is it any wonder really that with so many parties involved, all with their own self-interest, not your interest,
Of course not. Even though I'm paying the bills, yeah.
it doesn't matter. They don't
It's
care who pays the bills.
I get that. I've experienced that.
Yeah, they're employees. They don't even see that.
Mm.
Is it any wonder that we end up having issues?
But I think this is probably the issue, that a bank, as an institution, really still is a partner in your business. They have a vested interest in the success of your business, because failing that, they don't generate a return, which means the shareholders don't generate a return either. But it just seems and feels that they're not a partner and they have their own interest. And that's the way it felt for me. And
Yeah.
that was the challenge that I was struggling to, that's what I was struggling to come to terms with, is that I'm trying to help you get your money and or your return to shareholders, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I'm the bad person, or I've done something wrong, or I'm not adhering to the guidelines, when all I'm trying to do is make your job easier. Like, it was just mind-boggling.
Oh, it is mind-boggling. And thankfully, not all of them run that way.
Thankfully,
Some of the
not.
transactions run absolutely beautifully.
Which I
and
wish-
you go end to end, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
What a pleasant experience.
Yeah, some of them, the experience is great. And in some instances, just knock the timeline. You just kick a goal. You go,
Yeah,
we're ready way before we need to be.
Yeah.
So this is where our involvement comes in.
Oh yeah, the benefit, the power of a broker, and this is the next stage, which we can dive into now. So, how important a broker is in these transactions? Critical, absolutely bloody critical.
I think it can make all the difference.
Oh, it makes world of difference.
And it can make or break a transaction.
Couldn't agree more.
I do believe, and I unashamedly say this, like every profession, not all brokers are equal. So who is it you've got in your court? Because if you've got the commercial nous to understand a business and understand more than just a transaction, then you're better placed to bring the bank along for the ride. Because they do actually want what we want. You're right. And they do want to deliver that. They're just big, unwieldy, and have difficulty in delivering. So part of my role is not only to be that Babel fish and translate, get the transaction done. It's actually to get the transaction done.
Yeah, I was
and
going
coordinate.
to say, because you, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it because I think it resonates with some of the listeners. You're a bit like a real estate agent. You've got a buyer and a seller, and your job is to effectively bring them together to execute a transaction. In this bank, you got the bank. In this situation, at the bank, and you've got someone that either wants the bank or needs the bank, or whatever. Your job is to bring them together, and it is. I can just imagine the experience you were having.
Yeah, I don't know that you can. Because
Maybe
it's not,
not.
if it was just two banks, I'm cool with it. And within those two banks, you might deal with three different departments. Okay,
sure.
you got 6 parties in that instance. But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was lawyers.
Lawyers.
It was people to keep happy, and you've got to be a mediator.
That's. I've genuinely felt that's what you were doing half the time. Is you were just saying, look, it's going to happen. Just let it run its course. And I was like, look, Hanif, I appreciate you, brother, but Jesus, bloody, this is now, for context, I'm sitting, I'm graduating, and I put my phone in airplane mode, and I'm 5 minutes into the graduation ceremony. I took it off. I was like, no, I just can't sit here and be in the moment when something is due to settle. Which truthfully, it probably wasn't going to settle, but I was convincing myself it would. And I just had to get on the phone and be like, what is going on? Like, where are we at? And it didn't settle in the end, and it is what it is.
And I appreciate it. It's really hard in your shoes because you've also got a relationship with the seller.
Yeah.
You've made some commitments, set some expectations.
Yes.
And it's not just the seller.
No.
It's all of their staff. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
This isn't just let's go buy a business and a transaction.
No.
It is actually about bringing people on a journey, proving to them in the first instance, it's a first impressions thing. Mm-hmm. When I make a commitment, I keep it.
Correct. So you've got the seller, you've got the staff, and being in the game that we're in, you've got a book of clients.
Yes.
That have been communicated with about a transaction that was due or expected to settle weeks prior. And that's what I'm buying. I'm buying the book of clients. And that was such an experience that we had to go through where we were so fortunate. I couldn't speak more highly of the staff that were a part of the transaction. Even some of the staff that didn't come across were just so helpful. And it was such a great experience, again, for purpose, working with good people, that I was very fortunate. But I don't think most people are as fortunate as I was in this circumstance.
In some circumstances, I do help our clients manage that whole process. You're great at it yourself. You don't need the help. But I go further because I realise that this isn't a transaction. You're not buying a house. You're not buying a thing. In your case, you are actually buying. That is actually goodwill.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
That's
you are
real
buying
goodwill.
The heart and soul of the people. You're paying money for something, but you're actually paying money for the heart and soul of the people who run it.
Yeah, relationships.
And you can destroy that so easily. And that's the value of what you bought is that. So all this nonsense in the background that stalls a transaction.
And damages that asset.
100%. And it's damage. So I do think about risk and damage control. It does keep me up at night. because when I do work for you, my wife will tell you, she probably finds it annoying because I don't sleep enough when things like that happen. Because I think about all those things, and it is important. And people who are transaction-based in banks, they don't get it. And they can't. So I can't even hold it against them, because there's no way that you could understand that unless you're either there or you've been there.
And that was, again, that's probably why I wanted to bring up this conversation and unpack it. And you've done such a fantastic job at doing that, because most smaller businesses, and you don't even actually, let me correct that, you don't need to be a small business by fact of turnover, because the banking definition of small business is by lend. And that's the situation I was in, because I didn't have a big bank debt. I was considered a small business, notwithstanding the size of the transaction was substantial, what we were trying to achieve. But it was mind-boggling that we pay for a service with an institution, and when you want to, in effect, utilise their service, there's no one to speak to, whether it be here, Eastern States, the settlement division, the whatever, and we were pulling some strings. There was some people at the
serious string pulling
at the right level that we were collectively pulling, predominantly yourself, and even still, it was like, oh mate, yeah. So
I think there is it's not all bad.
No.
Because
no.
I think
it was just,
it's important to unpack and understand it from how can these things go wrong? And I think how can we mitigate, not prevent? Because you do not control everything.
No.
I think that's the first premise. And if there are multiple parties involved, the propensity for something to go wrong is pretty high. Part of my job is to understand what that could be and try and mitigate it to prevent it from happening. But we don't control everything.
No, and that's probably the key takeaway I took from the transaction, is that with the number of parties involved, I was never going to control the process, even though I was the buyer and a transaction had been reached. So I learnt that. But equally, I learnt the power of a broker, and that's why I felt right now is the important part of the podcast to bring you on and to now get into that. So, it's fair to say, without the broker, I wouldn't have understood the banking world. Notwithstanding, as an accountant, we deal with banks every day. But every bank has a different process, and every process has a different person either in front of it or behind it. So I felt that it was important, the role that you played was probably educating myself on the process and the people and the institution and the fact that I couldn't control it. And if the bank says that's what's going to happen, it pretty well might as well happen. And we pulled strings and whatnot. So I recall distinctly that the original settlement date that was proposed by the bank in this instance, we only settled like 2 or 3 days prior to that. And it was the most excruciating experience. But the power of the broker just resonates with me a lot, and the power of a good broker, and a good broker that understands the banking process. And I feel like it's important that people do speak to brokers. And there's a lot of brokers out there. There's a lot of accountants. There's a lot of banks. You can speak to all different people. But the experience I had, I took a lot away from it. And I guess that's probably where I want to lead into. So, Hanif, in your experience with the growing businesses and the demographic of listeners that we have, like, how can we better situate ourselves to mitigate?
I think it's preparation.
Preparation. Okay, so preparing.
The preparation is critical. And you're right, I feel like, I see it actually, I'm involved in a number of acquisition transactions right now, and we're in a golden era of the change that we've been talking about for many years. Of the old guard selling to the younger guard.
Yeah.
Right. And the businesses are great. The art of, is it an art? I don't know. I think it's just a people negotiation. Is there a good fit? You might see a great business and maybe the fit's wrong. And by the way, that will kill your profit if the fit is wrong. because the culture, your personal culture, is going to butt up against the culture of the business you're buying. And practically in the trenches, people will leave. Corporate knowledge goes out the door, you'll replace them. That comes at a huge cost. The profit you think you're going to make out of that business won't be there.
So that's in that due diligence pit, right? So
And this is part of the preparation.
Yeah.
Right. We want to buy the business. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we want to buy the business? Forget culture for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of what are you buying this?
Mm-hmm.
So have we got our thinking right? If it's a good strategic fit, we go, yes, we're doing it, great. What's the culture like? You know that it makes a profit, but forget that for a moment. What's the culture like? Is that a fit? How do we transition this business into our business in the most seamless way we can think of? Because if it's not, all the profit goes down the drain.
And potentially you lose the asset.
Yeah, this could end really, really poorly. On the flip side, it can be the best thing you ever did. So think through that before you start negotiating anything. Your negotiations, in my part, are after or during due diligence, but a lot of it's around transition, culture, really diving deeply into how does this thing work, why does it work, not how I assume it works, not what I'm reading when I do my due diligence through their systems. That's not how it works. Once you understand that, then you know what to negotiate. And you know whether it'll be successful or not. You'll know how and why. That does two things. One, it gives you some assurance internally that this is going to be great and we're going to make it work and it's going to work for us. Two, it allows you to negotiate properly. But three, and importantly, as much as we demonise banks, some of the guys in credit are very intelligent and they've seen a lot for a lot of years. If we've done this sort of preparation, those guys can see it. And that gives them confidence to say, we're going to back PAS.
Because that was something, again, with an alternate institute, that I was able to have a very pleasant experience with, which was getting in front of the right people and demonstrating that there is competence in myself and the underlying business and my business partners to do it well.
And it's really important. I think that's really important. Good people in banks who want to cooperate will pick up on a transaction that makes good commercial sense and actually back the people. Even the big banks, even though we demonise them, they do back the people. But it's got to be presented in the right way. You've got to know. And you've got to know the people because, if you line up 4 accountants and they've got the same background, they all deal in the same sector, they're all going to be different.
Of course.
And I can tell the same story to all 4 and the response will be different.
Yep.
Well, everything's the same on the planet. Banks are the same, credit people are the same. So understanding how to navigate that field and present something in a way that all 4 of those guys will go, yeah, we absolutely should be doing this. Because once they're in that space, then we can also negotiate terms. Banking terms are always, from my perspective, part of the transaction. Because we put the culture aside, we put ops aside, and we say, okay, financially, how is this going to work? Do we understand our cash flows? If we got these terms from a bank instead of these terms, what practical difference would that make to me?
Because profit is not cash flow, particularly when it's profit after bank repayments, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you. The profit and loss sheet is for accounting.
Yes, sir.
Folks, ladies and gentlemen, do not run your business off a profit and loss sheet. You will go broke.
100%. Every day of the week.
Your cash flow is your Bible.
Yes.
Because that properly tracks what money you've got in the bank. And the name of this game, aside from having fun, and I really hope you do have a lot of fun in your business, is you've got to have more money in your pocket. And your family's got to keep the money that's in your pocket and make it grow. That is actually the name of the game. And if it's not, I'll put $100 on the table now to say that you're in a world of pain you're not enjoying the journey, and you might be better off doing something else.
Correct. You are acquiring an asset which is an appreciating asset, as we would put it in the accounting world. Don't spend your time and money developing what will be a depreciating asset. And money moves. The value of money moves every year, every day. And with the inflation and things that we're experiencing at the moment, $1 yesterday is nowhere near $1 today. And I think a testament to that hopefully will resonate is the housing world. You know, not too long ago, the median house price in Perth was about $550. Now it's up at $850. It's astronomical. So everyone's now a property genius, right? Oh, I bought all this property. I'm now worth all this money. Worth money on paper. It'll probably flatten out. But back to your point, you need to look after your money, and you need to buy an asset that you can grow in 2 or 3 years' time to get a better return.
I think that's lost on a lot of people.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yep.
And we don't often enough stop and ask ourselves, for the sake of what are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? And we've got families, and oftentimes our families suffer for our own lack of planning and insight. And that's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't need to be, and it'll continue to be for forever, I think, because we're people. But it doesn't need to be, and we can change it. And so this planning thing that I rabbit on about so much is to help us win and be successful. And successful doesn't mean I've got more cash in my pocket. It means I've got part of my life back, my family's settled and happy, I'm enjoying the ride. That's really important. And it is a ride. And you're not always going to be happy. That's
Unfortunately,
you can't be.
Well, I think someone's asked the question before. How do you? What is true happiness? And I don't think you can. I don't think it exists. Unfortunately,
I don't even know if happy's a thing. I think content. You can be content.
Yeah, you can be
and
content.
You can be discontent. And sometimes, and discontent's important.
Yes.
Well, it's important to me.
Yeah.
Because that drives me to make decisions and go and do. And the only thing I can say to you that's been true in all my life is it's the activity, the actual doing that drives everything. You cannot replace the doing. The work needs to be done. To build a business takes 10 years. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. And you've got to do the work.
Have to. And you have to be resilient.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know how resilient you are until you're there, and the people around you are the people that help support you through those times. And it's just a conversation. Blokes are terrible at it. Women are great at it. We just don't talk enough about how we feel about things. We're not taught to feel. We're taught to do and to be a certain way. And I think that's unhelpful. We can be as strong as we want to be. And, this feels hard, Paz. I never used to be able to say that, by the way.
Yeah, or male, female, or otherwise. I think you're right. I think it's fair to say that most people just bottle it up and go, I can deal with this. And males traditionally are renowned for, I'm okay, I'm the leader of the pack.
Be stoic, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I means to be a man.
I got to this transaction. I was in Sydney, and I was just like, opened up. I was like, nah, this is...
I remember.
And I was doing my best, but I felt I had to open up because I bottled it up so much. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna break through it. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be all right. And then by the end, I was like, all right, Hanif, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to tell you what I really think right now.
I'm glad you did, because that manifests in other ways. We don't know. We think we bottle it up and it's inside. Dude, it leaks. I can tell you from life experience, it leaks all over the place. You cannot see the leakage. And it's like at the nastiest oil spillage on the ocean. And everyone's trying to contain it. They can't. It's poisoning everyone. All the birds die. The fish are turning up. And it's messy. We can avoid it.
We can.
So I know we're talking about acquisitions and finance, but I think that's just part of it. And it's not even the most important part. we're leaving the most important part off the table by not addressing it. And that's our lives. You only get one life, bro.
Right? Not up cats.
That's right. So what are you going to do with it? And if you involve the right people, you've got the best crack at doing it well.
100%.
Surround yourself with really good people. I mean, I've been told that for years. I never understood what it really meant. It's taken me 50 years to learn it. I think I'm starting to get it now.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference. If you're young and you've got a business and you can find people who are better than you to surround yourself with, you'll level up.
100%.
And you'll level up so quickly you'll look back and surprise yourself. Because we've all got it in here.
Yeah, cool.
And in here, we really do. But it's the attitude and the energy and the experience of other people that's going to lift you. And you can do incredibly well. And I love Perth. I moved here purposely because this is a town where the culture says you can live and you can be in business and you can be super successful and it's okay. And we're super close to Asia.
Yeah.
My God. I don't think we've even unpacked
No way.
the benefit and the opportunity of our neighbours.
No, it's massive. It's but people think, people often go, Asia, China, or whatever it is. No, like just Southeast Asia, or there's these other places of Asia that is just untouched.
So some people have said to me, well, it doesn't make any difference to me. Well, maybe not. If you're in business, I'll say it will touch you in some way. You don't need to deal directly with Asia for Asia to affect you because others will.
Correct.
Because we're trading with them, which means the need for your goods and services here domestically increase. So your business is going to do better. So I'm totally in the camp of being positive about where we live. Our economy is the strongest in the nation. It's resilient. And the people here, unreal.
Yeah.
We've got excellent people in
We
Perth.
do.
We really do.
We do.
And their attitude's different.
Correct. And there is a lot of wealth here in WA that has been built and created in WA.
Yeah.
And I think that often people forget that.
Yeah, so I think all up we talk about the issues we have, and I think they're important, and unpack them. Why is that? How does that work, and how does that bite you in the backside? Yes, definitely discuss that, understand and learn from it in the macro context of open your eyes and look at where we live, look at how we live and the opportunities we have in front of us, and it is mind-boggling. Compare it not only to the eastern states where they do it tougher. We've got more disposable income per capita here than anywhere else in the country.
That's correct.
And then compare it to the rest of the world. Are you kidding me? We even live here?
Yeah.
Paz. This is like business heaven.
I know.
And we all live here.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not complain.
Go out and make it happen.
Yeah,
Get it
if there's a
done.
problem, go find the solution
Yeah,
and
get
solve
it
it.
done. Yeah.
If it's too difficult and it's not working, get out of it.
Yeah.
And do something else because there's
Put
a
your
lot
time
more
and
to
energy
do.
in something else.
Yeah.
100%.
And your life will be better.
100%.
Enjoy the privilege of living here and have a good life, please.
And I think that's a good closing statement. And if we could sit here and talk hours on end, and I think you're right. Get out, make it happen, make a difference, live with purpose. The money will come. The money will come. The financial independence is what I say often. It's not about being rich. It's just about being financially independent. So you're not having to worry about money, and your lifestyle will depict that on what lifestyle you want to live. But the money will come. But there is so much opportunity, and with a good pack, I call them a wolf pack, good wolf pack of people that you surround yourself with, you can make a big difference, and you can make things happen quickly. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's about you leveraging your network of people around you in order to achieve what really should be a common goal, because they all should be working with you to help you push.
I think you're right. And the switch to the right path is quick. The path is long. The journey takes time. Be comfortable with that. The switch is very quick. I can switch from this path to this path like that. and I've seen you do it. I love
I'm
your
getting
work.
there. I'm getting there.
Love your work.
Hanif, thank you so much for your support on a personal note. And thank you for making the time to get on the podcast. For anyone out there that is has experienced or may experience the pain of dealing with the banks, I couldn't recommend Hanif and the finance agency enough. And a specific shout out to Paula for her fantastic efforts in assisting in our personal transaction. But Hanif, where can people find you?
The finance agency, we're in the city. Have a look at financeagency.com.au. We're very easy to find.
Yeah.
Get on the phone.
Amazing.
Thanks for the invite.
No worries.
I totally enjoyed it.
Amazing. Look, I think there's going to be a part 2, mate, because there's a lot that we didn't unpack. But yeah, I'll share your details on LinkedIn as well. If anyone wants to reach out and connect, I'm sure you'd be more than happy to meet with them. And yeah, I look forward, Hanif, to the future and working together and building on what has already been a fantastic relationship.
Likewise, and thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Hanif. Talk soon.
See ya.